Hello, I am Kieran Gabriel, and I'm here today on April 14th to talk with my grandpa, Papa, Kenneth Gabriel, about his life growing up, where he lived, and how it changed during Pearl Harbor. So you can say hi.
Hi, I'm Ken Gabriel, Kieran's uncle.
Okay, so,
Grandpa.
oh, yeah. So my first question is, where did you grow up in Hawaii?
I grew up on the island of Oahu, and I grew up in Kalihi at Dishaline, and I lived there all my life, practically, till I was 21, and I graduated from high school, Farrington. Then I went into the service. In 1941, I was 5 years old, and my mom and I was walking to the store, and all of a sudden, we looked up into the sky, and we saw planes making all different kind of dives and flying, going around one another like they were shooting one another. Then we heard the sirens going off, and then we saw the 2.5 ton trucks, military trucks, driving all around and started to pick up the military personnel that was visiting in Hawaii, walking on the streets downtown and where we were living. They stopped, picked them all up, and started to head back to Schofield or Pearl Harbor, wherever they belonged. Because we found out later that Pearl Harbor was under attack by the Japanese Empire.
Okay, so what was it like before the bombing happened? Like, how, like, what did you do on like a daily basis when for as a kid?
Oh, it was really, really nice. There was nothing, well, there was a whole thing's a lot of different from what it is today. Before, we didn't have kids that were really out of hand and no respect with their parents today. In our time, we could grow up, go out, leave the doors open, and we played with everybody that was in our neighborhood, and nobody robbed our house even if the doors was open. Everybody was friend to one another, and that made it easy to survive. Because at that time, life was really easy living. You don't make much money, but a nickel goes a long way, they said.
That's cool. So, so before it was just fun. You were a kid. Just it was nothing really. It was whoops. Like you didn't really. Did you ever think about the war because it was going on? But I knew you were a kid, so I mean,
No, not really. I really didn't think about the war because at that time I was only 5 years old.
yeah.
So I really, really didn't know what was going on until we went home. We got home and we listened to the radio. And we had to go into a blackout system where we drew all the curtains and shades down where there could be no light showing at night. So that was one of the main things. And then they had everybody, they had to be in the house by 8 o'clock. They had a curfew limit.
Yeah.
If you're not in, they'll pick you up and arrest you.
Okay. So, uh, so that's when it happened. So you know how you described what it was like when you were at that time. So you remember that like quite clear when the bombing happened. So you remember the plane. You remember all of that.
Well, I only remember what we saw from the place that we lived. Outside, going to Pearl Harbor, we didn't get on the road, we couldn't go, we didn't see nothing outside of Pearl Harbor. We didn't see nothing until we got back home. And we heard from our friends, the people that Pearl Harbor was being hit by the Japanese planes and everything. So we didn't really see the actual bombing on Pearl Harbor, but we seen the airplane fighting up on the sky, shooting at one another.
Oh, so you didn't have a view of it.
No, we didn't have no view of it because we were stationed down in Kalihi, so that was
Yeah.
quite a distance off from Pearl Harbor.
Yeah. So so when it happened, so the right as that happened, it changed. Like Oahu went in, or Hawaii went into martial law, and so that changed a lot. That changed school, how you lived, just how you did things on a daily basis. So when it happened, did you like was it different for you, like not being able to go out and like play or like do like the same things you could do.
It wasn't that much difference for us because, like I said, I was a small little boy. Most of the time, I was either home or I'm out in the front just playing around the house in the yard, yeah. So we had a small cement yard where we played, and everything was just basically the same thing. We never gone out without my sisters or my older brothers because things was really hazardous at that time, they said, so we all stayed within our area at home. Nothing really changed that much.
So okay, so so do you did you have to go to school during that time, even with as the war went on, how they changed schools to be for military?
Well, we had to go to school, but at that time I didn't go to school because, like I said, I was only 5. But my sisters and my brothers, the older sister and brothers, they went to school, and they'd be back home by a certain time, about 2 o'clock. So everything would be all right. As far as the curfew went on for a little while, but after that, when they feel that everything was normal and the Japanese wasn't going to attack again, everything went back to normal and they could go out at night, go to a movie or whatnot, but it really didn't change. After the war got over, then things changed a little bit because that's when they built the new Mayorite housing area for the low-income people. And they tore up a lot of the old sections that we used to play and walk through and put that housing there for the people to have good homes.
Yeah. Okay. So what was it? What was the curfew like? Like having to go in at that certain time and then having the blackout. What was that like for you?
Well, you just couldn't go out at night or just play in that cement yard. It wasn't a big cement yard, but you couldn't go out and play because they wouldn't allow any light after 8 o'clock. The curtains have got to be drawn on a curfew. You got to make sure there's no light. If you have lights shining out from someplace else, they're going to have a warden come by and tell you that you got lights showing. You got to cover it up, put some tape or something. So you got to put the tapes to cover it up.
Did that ever happen for you guys? Like
no, my mom and dad made sure everything was covered good, so we didn't have to go through that problem. So everybody stayed home and listened to the radio at that time. We really didn't have much of a TV, but the radio was our big mainstay, so we got to listen to the radio.
Did the radio still was on even after that curfew?
Yes.
Oh.
That's where you get your information as to how things are going.
Oh, that's pretty cool. So were you affected by like how they like had the internment camps for the Japanese? Were you like, did you have any friends or people that you knew that were affected by that?
Well, at that time, personally, like I said, I was only 5 years old, and after the war got through, I think I was about 7 years old. So I didn't know anything about the internment camp out at
Staten Island and Honolulu.
Yeah, I didn't know anything about that until later on in years. But then as I got to go to high school, then I got discharged. I graduated from high school. I went directly into the service because we had a draft law. You got to register when you're 18, and if the draft is still in effect, they're going to draft you, and they'll take you into the service for military training.
Oh,
you had to do at least three years, and you had to go at least 5 years into the Army Reserve, or Marine Reserve, or National Guard.
So you did join the, what did you join, the Army?
Well, my first thing that I joined the U.S. Marine Reserve. I was in the Marine Reserve for 1 year. Then I got out of the Marine Reserve because I told them that I wanted to join the regular Army because my brothers all went into the regular Army. So I joined that. Then I went to technical school training in still photography and lab technician. I wanted to be a photographer when I got out and opened my own shop. So that's why I went into the still photography and lab technician. I was a photographer in the Army for 3 years. Then I got out with a rank of sergeant. And then I went back into the Army Reserve, 442, for at least 12 years. before they put me out when the next war started.
So you did fight in the war.
No, not really. I was inside. But I got rated as a 5-point veteran. The 10-point veteran is for guys that went into the war. They got injured and whatnot. Yeah.
So you're a lab technician of photographer. So
Yeah.
what'd you do for that for the army?
Well, what I used to do, I used to cover all the big occasions that happen on the bases. Like if they're going to have a USO dance with very important people coming, because it's a special occasion, then I go there and I take pictures. I cover the whole thing. I take pictures of military generals and VIPs from the White House that come to a certain post, our post. I take pictures and I get to follow them for the whole day, take picture where they go, what they do, and everything like that, all special occasions. And every once in a while, if a small L-19 plane crashes or something, then I fly with the other group of officers, we go to the destination, then I take some aerial photographies of the area, and we get down, we land, and I take picture of the plane crash itself, what they take all different pictures that they want me to take. Then I get to take it back when we get to the base, and I develop and process my own pictures.
Oh, so that's pretty cool. What like were you in a squadron for this, or you just were stayed on base, and like were you with a battalion or?
Yeah, I was stationed in base, but we always with the 141st Signal Battalion, and whenever we go out on field training exercise and everything, we go out with the entire group. Everybody goes out, but we still go. We got our own lab truck that we take pictures and everything. We process it and then get it to the officer in charge who wants to see the pictures of how everything is going.
So did you ever have to like travel anywhere for this, like, or did you just stay at Oahu, or where were you stationed?
No, I was stationed. I went to after I graduated from high school, I took my basic at Fort Ord, California. Stayed there for at least 4 months. Then when I graduated, I got sent to technical school training at Fort Monmouth, New Jersey, where I went to my schooling for at least another 6 months. And then I got transferred to Fort Ord, California. Fort Hood, Texas. And then I was stationed there for a while. Then I got sent to Fort Sam Houston for color transparency to learn about making color films. And then I got sent from there after training. I got sent to Fort Polk, Louisiana, where I stayed for the rest of my term for the next 2.5 years.
So how long were you trained? How long did you train for, and then how long were you in service for?
In the Signal Corps?
Yeah.
Well, I was stationed there for at least 2.5 years, and I was stationed I finished up my service time at Fort Polk, Louisiana.
Uh-huh.
Then after I got my discharge, I took my discharge up there so I could go and visit my older sister that was living in Texas. So I did that. I stayed with her for a while, and then I flew back home to Honolulu, Hawaii in the ending of 1957.
That's pretty cool. So were you for you, like, which war were you like being trained for? What war was that in that you had to be?
I think it was the Korean, I think Vietnam War, I think it was.
The Vietnam War?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's pretty cool. So after that, then when you came back home, what'd you do?
Well, when I came back home, first of all, I had to find a job. So I found me a job. After looking all around, I found it. I thought it was a full-time job. They didn't tell me that it was only part-time. I got a job as a photographer at Hawaiian Pineapple Company. So I got the job, and I worked there for at least 2 to 3 months. Then the regular photographer came back. They called me in the office and told me that he was sick. So they hired me only for temporary duties. But they told me I did an excellent job, and if they have opening, they'll call me. but I couldn't wait for them to call me because I needed a job. So I went and applied for Pearl Harbor. Then I got a job as a warehouseman. I worked at Pearl Harbor. Then I got a job. I transferred inside there. I got into in the fuel department where we refuel ships and receive fuel. I worked there for at least 28 years in the fuel department. So after that, I retired in 1987, I think it was.
So a problem that faces us today is that like how veterans like they don't get treated well when they come back from their service or just from being at the war. They don't get treated as well and they can't get these jobs. So when you came back from what you did, was it hard for you to get a job, or like did they treat you?
Well, at that time, everybody was having a hard time get a job, but see, it was kind of, I would say it was kind of easy for me because I never did get hurt or get injured, yeah?
Yeah.
I got hurt playing football for the company. I got hurt playing baseball for the company, but I never got hurt in any combat activity. So when I came back, looking for a job wasn't such a problem. And when I found a job, I had, and I never did get laid off or anything. I just continued working at Pearl Harbor till I retired.
Okay. So, what is it? I'm blanking. So were you ever in like the front lines of these wars, or were you just,
No.
were you only stationed
No.
at your base?
I was stationed at the mainland for a little while, like I said before I got discharged, and then I came back home.
Yeah, okay.
And then when I got back home, I went into the 442 Army Reserve.